Yes, hello everyone, and welcome all sheriffs and guests to Overcoming Challenges, Launching a Drone Program. This is provided by the National Sheriff's Association and the University of Arizona Global Campus. Drones are the future for recreational flyers, in public safety, and in so many industries. And the safety and drone use is really in our hands, and it's in the hands of the sheriffs. And I want to first talk a little bit and introduce myself. My name is Michael Hayden. I'm with the University of Arizona Global Campus. I am the lead faculty for the Master of Information Systems Management, as well as the Bachelor of Arts in Business Information Systems. I am the lead faculty for the Drone Aviation and Aerospace Clubs, which is one of the clubs I lead at the university. I was active duty and served for 21 years in the United States Marine Corps. One of the duties I had was working with surveillance, reconnaissance, intelligence, and way back in the 90s, we did a lot of the preparatory work with a lot of the drones that the military used then, and proceeding now into the larger and more mainstream drones that we use now, including the Global Hawk. I'd like to just welcome everyone and kick this off. I want to introduce Gina from our department for PLA. Gina?
Hi, thank you. First, I want to thank everybody for their service. Today, a little bit later in the presentation, we'll show you and share some slides that will tell you how to proceed with a degree program at the University of Arizona Global Campus and or to take advantage of some of our non-degree seeking courses. So we'll share that information to you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Karen Ivey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. The University of Arizona Global Campus is designed to provide flexible opportunities for students who attend our university. We are known to be one of the most innovative universities, and we are so excited to offer offerings such as our drone aviation offerings throughout the university. Well, inside of the University of Arizona Global Campus, we have 50 degrees at the associate, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate's level. And we will share more about those degrees later on in this event because they're very, very exciting and very, very applicable to those who are in sheriff's offices, which is our focus today, specifically establishing a drone program. You met Gina. Gina is one of our strategic partners, and she is in front of working with the National Sheriff's Office Association. We are so excited to work with Gina and also excited to work with other business partners who we have, such as the National Sheriff's Association. I would like to welcome to the mic, Michael Brown. We call him Mike for short. And just to tell you a little bit about Mike, he is the Director of Professional Development at the National Sheriff's Association. And Michael comes with tons of expertise. He has been training law enforcement professionals for about 20 years. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, absolutely, Doctor, and thank you.
So welcome to the mic and welcome to the camera as well. Mike Brown.
Hello, I'm Mike Brown, Director of Professional Development with the National Sheriff's Association, and I just wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for agreeing to participate and give us some of your time. I'd like to introduce Wood County Sheriff's Deputy Sergeant Brian Bono. Sheriff Bono works for Sheriff Mark Voslution, who is actually one of our members and here at NSA. And the sheriff was gracious enough to allow his sergeant to present for us. So welcome, and it's all yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's truly an honor to be able to talk to you. So I'm pretty much the end user. So I've been operating RC equipment for, well, you see, I started in RC planes in 1994, so right out of high school, and flew for many years. In fact, my first AMA card, which is aeronautic insurance, to fly RC planes, actually had my first one in 1993. So I flew RC for about 15 or 20 years before I got tired of it. And then just about the time I got tired of it, drones came onto the market. And that was so exciting because for years we were trying to figure out how to attach a camera on top of a wingspan RC plane that's 60, 70 inches long. And so now all of a sudden we have drones with cameras attached to them. And it was just the most exciting thing that I've ever seen as far as technology when it comes to RC stuff. So today I have a lot of different slides I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about our application of technology, how we utilize this equipment here at the Wood County Sheriff's Office. I also want to show you some photographs and some videos of actual use cases, because it's one thing to have a program at your sheriff's office or that your agency spent a lot of money on, and then you always wonder, boy, is it worth it? Did we make the right decision? Did we buy the right equipment? So today I want to talk to you about, hey, this is what we do, this is what we have, and I want to show you exact uses of that equipment. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start off with a video. I took a sample video of all kinds of different items that we do here and uses. So if we could roll that video, is that something I need to play, or is that something that you guys are going to do in your end?
While we do wait for the video to prep, I did create a poll, would like to launch that. And the poll is asking, do you have a drone program in your sheriff's office? And as individuals are bringing in those answers, for those who are answering yes, if you could actually place in the chat your sheriff's office as well. This webinar is all about networking. It's all about knowing who has experience in the National Sheriff's Association when it comes to starting the drone program. You feel free, if you're comfortable, in sharing the name of your sheriff's office where you have the drone program. And I'm going to end the poll and just share that we have 67% who, yes, they do have a drone program in their sheriff's office, and 33% do not. And so indeed, this webinar is for all of us to educate ourselves to the next level. So I believe the video is prepped. Take it away, Sergeant Brian. Lauren and Brian, we're clapping. Fantastic footage.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's jump right into it, shall we? If we can go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, you start off here, and then we'll go back into the property that we have and we utilize. So I like that video because it's a taste. I call it a taste because that's exactly what it is. We have different videos of different things that I would love to show you, but I can't because of the privacy issues that we have here. But that video is a good taste of everything that you can do with a drone and then some. So you start at the top here. So first of all, crashes. So every time we have a crash in Wood County, now Wood County obviously has other agencies, and we have cities and we have villages, but Wood County is huge. It's approximately 620 square miles and about 130,000 residents. Because we have such a large geographical area, we have a lot of vehicles and we have a lot of crashes. So we're pretty proud of the sheriff's office because we handle, I don't know, probably 85% of those crashes. We're on crashes quite often. So we're pretty proud about that. So one of the things we do whenever we have a serious or fatal crash is we want to tell the family members why this crash occurred, one. And then two, we want to figure out how to reduce this crash to keep our citizens safe. So do we have stop sign issues? Do we have pavement issues? Do we just have people that are being distracted? What's going on? Why are we having these crashes? So every serious crash we have, it doesn't have to be a fatal, but we like to do a reconstruction. So what we'll do is we'll launch a drone and we'll take a picture and a video of the overhead view. And one thing that's really nice about this is when you're on the ground and we're standing there with lasers and wheels and we're measuring off and we're painting the scene and we're doing along the edge and from the edge and triangulation, all that is great. But what you can't see is you can't see the very light skid marks that are on the ground. You know, so before we have a collision, right, you have two cars that are going to come up together. One car makes a traffic error. So you're going to have a perceived collision, right? There's a reactionary from the pedal. There's a reactionary gap. So that person's brain tells the person driving, hey, I'm going to move my foot from the gas pedal to the brake pedal. And when that foot touches the brake pedal, the skid marks are so light that we can't see them on the ground. But if we launch a drone, those are plain as can be. And it's amazing. So with the help of a drone pilot, we can go back and we can start measuring the beginning points of that skid marks. And it's just a valuable tool for our crash investigators. And then moving on. So point number two, I played this video for my kids and they call it the Biscotio video. Did you see the tires in the ditch? So on North River Road here in Wood County, we have a ditch and it snakes back and forth. It's a beautiful scenery road and we love traveling on it. Well, one day that was one of the first videos that I took with my Mavic Pro, and we'll talk about that in a second. So we had a littering complaint, and that ditch is so steep, it's almost impossible to get down that ditch to take photographs to see exactly what's going on. And so I'm standing there, I'm like, we just got a drone. Just launch that drone and take a look at exactly what's going on in that ditch. And so my kids call that the Biscotio video because the tires at 400 feet literally look like Biscotios. And I forgot, so this is about 2-3 years ago, we counted it, but it's over 100 tires. And so putting the pieces together like that is just valuable. So property damage, littering offenses, now thermal assistance. So whether if it's daytime or whether it's nighttime, we can launch a drone and we can utilize thermal technology to find a heat source. Now, when we first got into thermal drones, we thought, hey, you can only use thermal drones at night, okay? So because everything's so hot. So you got the hot pavement, you have the hot subject, and everything blends together and it's hard to really see where you're looking at. But what we found by changing the color plats in the infrared camera itself, which is very easy to do on the remotes, we can change those colors and we can make certain things pop out differently. It's pretty incredible once you start looking at it. In fact, we have some pictures coming up in further slides. I'm going to break that down for you and show you some really just amazing things that we saw and that we're going to start using our thermal cameras a little differently. So I'm excited to show you that. The next thing is missing persons or suicidal persons. So again, 130,000 residents. That's a lot of people. And within that group of people, we have elderly, we have kids, And occasionally they wander off into a cornfield or they wander off in the woods. So what we do is we launch a drone day or night, and we use that technology to track down missing people. And at that point, when you find some little kid in a cornfield, or you find some elderly person that walked away down a river path that would take you hours to mobilize a search team to search that same pattern, that same field or riverbank, it's just priceless. It's money well spent. So those are some of the applications that we use. Just go back one slide now, if we could, please. Perfect. So let's talk about the fleet of drones that we have and why we started with these drones. Okay, so I have most of them here. So this is the first one. This is the drone that I actually learned how to fly on, besides those little cheap drones that you buy at Walmart, the ones that don't have GPS lock on it. So this, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but this is a Mavic Pro. This is the original Mavic Pro, okay? So what this drone did for us, okay, first of all, this is very affordable. This is a very affordable drone, okay? So this drone taught our pilots how to fly. Now we're going to talk about this later down when we talk about overcoming challenges and suggestions from the sheriff's office. So we also have a Matrice 210. And so we have another sergeant here who's been flying drones for a long time. He actually started on the Phantom 3 Advance, okay? So when he picked up that Matrice, and that Matrice is about $30,000, and it has several different camera attachments that go onto the bottom of it. So this drone here, you see it's got a gimbal, and then on the gimbal is the camera itself. This camera gimbal doesn't come off. But on the Matrice 210, that $30,000 drone package, or whatever that very costly package is, that camera system actually comes off, and you can put other cameras on there. So he was very comfortable taking off that very expensive drone and flying it around and getting used to it. Everybody else at the sheriff's office started on Mavics. And this was an excellent idea because we had crashes. Because when we first started flying with the controllers, when you take off, everything's right. But as you spin the drone around, the craft is facing you. The right to left and the rotations are different because it's as you're sitting in the pilot seat of the drone, if you will. So when you go out, it's one direction. And when you come back, the controls are actually backwards. So these were awesome. And we're going to talk about training your people on the right platform at the right time here in a little bit. But this is what I learned how to fly on. Okay, so money well spent. And we talked about the Matrice 210. Very impressive drone. The nice thing about that drone is it's weather resistant. So you can fly it in a rainstorm. I've seen it fly in snowstorms. I've seen it fly in rain. Where these, no moisture. There's a lot of open ports. There's a lot of other, holes in them and stuff where air's coming in and out. No moisture whatsoever. So the Matrice 210 is a fantastic package. It's a costly package, but it's a fantastic package for what you get out of that. And then we move on to the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advance. So this is my drone. Okay, this is the one that's issued to me by the sheriff's office. And the nice thing about this drone is, first of all, it's the latest technology from DJI when it comes from an affordable package. Now, when I say affordable, it's still about $8,000. And then that's with extra batteries and the case. But this thing does some things that's really unique to a lot of the different platforms. First of all, you take a look at the camera. So that's a single gimbal that's attached to the aircraft, and you have two different cameras on this. So you have a regular JPEG camera, and then you have a thermal camera on here. So every time you take a photograph, whether if you're in day or night, or if you're looking at the thermal screen or the regular JPEG screen, you get two images. And we'll show you some photos later that this took. Kind of led to a discovery for us, but we'll take a look at that. But this is a nice package. The nice thing about this drone here is it comes with a smart controller. So that's what this is. So most controllers for DJI look like this. So then you got to take your phone and you got to attach your phone to the bottom of it, and you're actually flying on your phone. So then you got to worry about the battery in your controller. Then you got to worry about the battery on your phone. And then, of course, you got to worry and be considerate of the battery that you have on your aircraft itself. So with this controller, I literally can launch this drone if we have a missing person, or we have a fire, or we have somebody that's out in the middle of a field and they're considering suicide or whatever they're doing, and we don't want to send our deputies all the way down that farmer's path to see what's going on in that car, I can send this drone up here, this Mavic 2 Advanced Dual, which is this, in about a minute. And now I actually have it down to about 45 seconds. If you start the controller, then start the drone. And then depending on what I'm doing with that drone will fly for about 27 minutes. And it doesn't really matter if you're hovering. As long as it's not windy, I'm getting some really good flight times out of that drone. So I'm very pleased with that. Now here, this is another drone that we have. This is the Mavic Mini. Now, this is quite a bit smaller than this drone, okay? Now, one thing nice about this drone, this is one of the drones that we actually really requested and really wanted because it puts our officers first, okay? So this is about 300, maybe 600. I kind of lose track of all the money we spend around here. But this drone here could possibly save our lives, okay? So think about it. We have a special response team at the sheriff's office, or we have a suicidal subject up a stairs, or we have a barricade, all of which are realities here at our sheriff's office because we're very busy. In the past, if you have a shooter, just use a school example. Somebody's in a school on the second floor or a building on the second floor. You have a staircase, right? And you've all seen in the movies where they're, rifles up and they're clearing very slowly. And clearly anybody walking up the stairs has a complete disadvantage from somebody looking down. That's why we put our troops on the high ground. That's why everybody wants to be up high so they can see down and maintain a position. Very dangerous for our employees. And we do everything possible we can to keep our employees safe. Now, what do? Mavic Mini to the rescue. We launched the Mavic Mini. It has cages that go around the propellers. It's very safe. If we run into any people or any walls, it'll literally just bounce off the wall. The Mavic Mini goes up through that staircase, checks the corners, checks the blind spots. Then our special response team or our deputies walk up and do the rest. Now, even better than that, so the flight time on this little tiny drone is about 35 minutes. It's incredible. This little tiny drone, because it's less than 250 grams, okay, which is 0.55 pounds, flies for a long time. There's not a lot of weight here. But if we land this same drone on top of that walkway on the second story, we can run that camera for about an hour to an hour and a half. So we can put surveillance up there that normally we'd have to put somebody in harm's way. So that drone is very exciting for us. So that's kind of the technology that we have currently. We're very excited about that. And again, this is our newest platform that we just got. And I can't wait to show you some videos on this, or not some videos, some photos coming up. If we could go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So this is a very tragic photo. Picture, let me set the scene for you here. So this is probably the foggiest day that we had one morning. Time flies as you've been here so long, maybe about a year and 6 months ago. It was during school, and I remember that because it was so foggy out. My kids stayed home from school. We had a fog day that day. And so this is Pole Road. And if you know our county at all, the closest intersection road is Range Line. And you can see we have a railroad track, and there's a slight, ever so slight bend in the road here. And then you have an unbarricaded bridge here, okay? So I know you can't see my mouse. I'm moving my mouse around. But you can see the tire tracks. So one foggy morning, I'll never forget it. It was so foggy, we're all doing like 35, 25. We didn't even go to the office. We just went to our areas because when it's real foggy out, response times are reduced. So we didn't check in at the office. We skipped our roll call. You go right to your areas. And then we're out there and we get a crash. Somebody driving by in the area locates what they think is a car upside down in the ditch. They call 911. I have two deputies, myself and two other deputies arrive on location. It's hard to see. It's so foggy there. We get out there. There's definitely a car upside down in the ditch. You can see the skid marks that come in. It appears to be not real high speed because you can see there's some deflection in the bank here, but you can see the skid marks. Now it's soft mud. Okay. We had a lot of rain. So those aren't like skid marks from brakes. It's just like mush marks, if you will. So the vehicle comes off that bridge, impacts into the ditch, rolls upside down. So now me and my partner here are standing on the ditch bank, and we're trying to decide, A, is this a recovery or is this a rescue? Well, it turned out at that moment we didn't know. So we did what we have to do. We went around the other side. We opened, we went into the icy cold water. You can see the snow there. And we opened the door, and there was an air pocket in the top of that car, probably about this big. And that's why we made the decision to go in. Again, is this crash happened 5 minutes ago, or was it last night? We have no idea. So we evaluated, we safely went in the water. And unfortunately, after getting all wet and trying to break the windows, you could see once we got the windows open that nobody was in that car. We left, we went in the squad, we all got dried off because it's pretty cold. But this picture, I'll show you the next picture here in a second. Unfortunately, this is a fatal crash. We did some back investigation and found out that he left a bar sometime about 2:15 in the morning because we have receipts. He is familiar with the area, but it was so small, foggy out. He travels down the road. He goes right on the jog instead of kind of twisting to the left. And unfortunately, he passes. This picture, I utilize this picture specifically because it led to a 2 or 3 day extensive search for the operator of this car. So what happened was the gentleman in this car actually made it out of the car, and he, for whatever reason, couldn't make it up the bank, and we found him a couple of days later. But long story short, this is so priceless for giving the family closure and helping the coroner's office determine, hey, what happened? Why did this guy die? Even our county engineer's office looked at this photograph and went out to the scene, and they looked at this, and you can see there's yet some curb signs on the one side of the road. Well, they put curb signs on the other side of the road. And I don't know if we would have noticed all this and be able to put all the pieces together without this photograph. So just go to the next slide again, please. So this next photograph, picture that same river about 1.5 miles, 2 miles down the road. And then you can see the road. Okay, it's kind of in a V. And then if you follow the river north of the road, you'll see 3 cruisers. Those are our SUV cruisers. And unfortunately, that's where we found that male. But again, the picture here is, this picture is worth 1,000 words when our coroner's office is trying to give closure to the family and determine exactly what happens. And we never had the ability to do this before till now. And so to me, it's tragic that this guy died. Obviously, it could have been my son, you know, could be somebody I know. It's tragic, but this photograph here is priceless. So just move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so I love this photograph, and we stumbled upon this by accident. So we had a crash. I know you probably don't know our county, but this road here that goes up and down here, the north-south road in the JPEG picture, the color picture. So that's State Route 23. And then the other road here that goes to the north, I'm sorry, to the east and west, that's State Route 105. This is a very dangerous intersection. Obviously, you can tell why, because you see that big turn lane. So what happened here is, and again, I don't have the mouse, but you can see in the intersection, see the car that's upside down? That car was traveling, yep, so that car was traveling northbound. And then if you look over to the ditch, you can see a car in the ditch to the west of that, yep. So that car actually ran the stop sign. You can see the stop bar here, ran the stop sign, collided with that SUV there. And then if you look all the way down to the south, you'll see a little tiny Mini Cooper about, yep, right there. So the only thing that people agree in this crash is that the silver car caused the crash. We have independent witnesses. This was a serious injury crash with children. Everybody survived, okay? But the only thing that people agree on this crash is that silver car in the ditch caused the crash because it came out of nowhere. And the little Mini Cooper rotated in the air about 5 feet off the ground and then ended up south of the crash site. So as always, serious crash, right? So we pull out my Trustic Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual and we take photographs because we called our crash investigator out to the scene to do reconstruction. Now, I'm sure you're like me, you're already looking at the thermal picture, right? So just look at the JPEG, focus on the JPEG here. So this image is as I took it. if you look at the image, you can see there's two cruisers. There's a couple of cruisers up north, and then the related cars that are in the crash are on the scene, right? Now just look at the thermal picture. What do you see? See all those shadows? If you look at those shadows, those are actually the other cars that were in that intersection, the fire trucks, the ambulances, the tow trucks that were there, the witnesses. You can see a semi. If you look at all those other shadows, those are actually cars. And we never realized that the thermal camera would do that. Now, see, when you take a picture with this drone, this is why I like this drone so much. One gimbal, two cameras, right? So I take a picture on my controller. So I'm looking at the colored picture on this, okay? I click that, I get two images. I get one in thermal and I get one in JPEG. And so then I'm reviewing these images, preparing them for the case, and I see this, all these other photographs, all these other vehicles here are listed on the scene here. Now, this wasn't an especially hot day. It was probably 80 degrees. It was about 1745 hours, which is about 5:45 p.m. And I remember that because it was shift change and night guys came out and relieved us. But this is so useful because if you're looking at something and you're trying to figure out where this car was at for a long period of time before it took off, but it just shows us the capabilities of a thermal picture. And I absolutely just love this picture. You know, the uses are endless. Let's say you have somebody that's dumping something in a river for a long time and we want to know where they're dumping it. Well, if we get there quick enough, and this picture here was taken about 15 to 20 minutes after all these vehicles were moved. So it's just another tool, if you will. I found that very impressive. Let's go to the next picture, please. Okay, so this is another crash. So this is our infamous US Route 6. It's one of the most deadly highways in Wood County for sure. Most of our fatal crashes occur on this. This wasn't a fatal crash, but I love this photograph because it tells so much. You know, when the insurance company comes and says, you know, hey, what happened and why did it happen and how did this truck go through this church? Okay, well, now this picture tells the whole story, doesn't it? So if you look down south in this picture, which I know you can't move the picture, but it's a four-way intersection. The main road where this fire truck is sitting has the right-of-way, okay? And then this road travels east-west. So the northbound vehicle was supposed to stop. It didn't stop. It collided with this Bonnie's truck farm here, this panel van, if you will. And then the truck proceeded to go off the roadway to avoid other collision. It tagged the front of the church, ripped the whole corner off the front of the church, and continued to arrest into the ditch. Let's go to the next slide. And this next slide is the same picture, but from a different vantage point. It just tells the whole story and is so useful. That's one thing that we really enjoy about this drone. Putting back the pieces and figuring out what happened without viewing these skid marks. You know, what really happened? And this one is pretty evident. It hit the church, but if this was a different crash with a different twist, this picture is just priceless. Let's move on to the next photograph, please. This is unfortunate. This is an unfortunate picture. So what this is a suicide. The gentleman had a bad day for whatever reason, made a decision that affects not only his life, but the lives of everybody else. Now, obviously, I spray painted over the picture so you can't see anything. But so this is a cemetery. This is out in the village of Tantagony. And the gentleman went out to the bottom of the cemetery here, and he took his own life, unfortunately. But you can see it's all cordoned off. Again, this is another useful tool for our detectives, because when you're on the ground taking a photograph like this, it's so hard to pinpoint exactly where you're at. But from an aerial advantage, it's just a priceless tool that we use for our investigation. All right, so just move on. You start talking about key challenges. Let's talk about some of the things that we've learned since we've had our drone program here, and I think we're coming up on 4 or 5 years with our program here. The challenges. Oh boy, get me going on the challenges. The first problem that we have is training our personnel. Okay, so we do in-house training, of course, and we're very good at training our people. But what we want to do is we want to transfer the liability off of us into a certified instructor. We do that with use of force. We do that with driving. We do that with crash investigation. We're always transferring that liability and getting that cushion of protection from somebody else. Training personality. It's so hard to find somebody that is with EOPATA or the FAA or somebody to go out and train us on these drones because the technology is so new. Now, we've been to a couple classes, and quite frankly, the training that we hold in-house here is so much better because the people who are providing the training, the technology is new to them. So yes, they know how to fly it, but how do we utilize it? How do we document those flights? How do we protect our sheriff's office and entity from getting sued because we're making mistakes or poor decisions? So that's the number one challenge, is how do we train our personnel to have a successful certification to do that? The next one. So if you're a hobbyist, there's a couple laws that have changed. Of course, you know that all drones weighing over 0.250 grams have to be registered. Okay. So this drone is less than 250 grams. So if you buy this for your son or your daughter, you just want to fly around your backyard, this drone does not have to be registered unless you use it for commercial use. If you use this drone for commercial use, it has to be registered and a sticker has to be affixed to the side of it. Okay. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is the FAA certification. So you just can't start a drone program. You have to train your personnel. They have to go take an FAA, it's called a Part 107 certificate. It's an actual pilot's license issued by them to give you authority to conduct commercial flights. Search and rescue is commercial, real estate is commercial, crash reconstruction for sheriff's office, all that falls under commercial, okay? So you have to not only train your people, but then you have to get them over and get them to pass the very complicated, challenging 107 test, okay? And it's not something you take online. You actually go and take this test at an airport. So once we got past that, you jump right into the equipment costs, okay? So again, we talked about some of these. So this is the original Mavic. This one here runs about $600 or $800 right in that range when we pick these up. The Dual, again, which is my favorite aircraft right now, this is about $8,000 with the complete package, the battery system and everything. And then the Mini was pretty affordable, whatever that was, but it was pretty affordable. So the cost of a program. And then we talk about our Matrice 210. Now, this is a big aircraft. If I can back up and see it all. Our Matrice, you can see the size of these props, right? The Matrice prop is longer from point to point. It's a big aircraft. Imagine a platform that's big enough to have 4 props as big as this drone. That's why that drone is so expensive, but it also can fly in very high wind. It can handle moisture, it can handle rain, it can fly in the snow. So you kind of get what you pay for. So very costly. So let's talk about documentation now. Just like when we respond to a domestic or we respond to a crash, everything that you do has to be documented. Every time we fly a drone, we have to log an entire sheet of information, the weather, the wind, where we took from, where we landed on from, everything has to be charted. So that's pretty important, but also self-explanatory. So, and we can help you with that if you need that. Educating our staff was a little bit of a challenge. So we'd go out to fatal crashes or serious crashes the next day, and we would look at something and say, why didn't we utilize a drone? Why didn't we call the drone out to do this? Because people forget that we have this technology. So our staff is, pretty good at remembering that we have this and we utilize them quite a bit. Also, of educating our staff. Now, Wood County, we're lucky enough where we don't have any real controlled airspace. So we have a couple of G space airports, but pretty much we can fly anywhere we want in Wood County. We don't need waivers. We don't need permission from the FAA. And I know that's very unique to our area, but we're very fortunate. The other thing when it comes to educating your people, so again, we have a very large county, 620 square miles. We also respond. So we're the sheriff's office, but Perrysburg and Rossford and Norfolk, they have their own police agencies. So we go up there and we assist them anytime they need help. So But what we have to teach our pilots and teach other people, certain platforms can't fly in certain conditions. So we're always talking about, and I'm going to jump ahead here, we always talk about the risk versus the reward. So yes, the reward is we can find somebody who's injured, or we can put the pieces back together at a crash, or we can take some photos or videos of a crime scene that'll help with prosecution. But where's the risk in that? You know, are we flying close to power lines? Are we flying close to controlled airspace? Is the weather not ideal conditions? You know, so yes, so we launch a drone to get those vital information, but we hurt or take a chance on damaging somebody's property or injuring somebody. So we always need to be talking about the risk versus reward when we launch our platforms. Okay, so let's move on to my last slide. And when we get there we go. So here are some, I thought about this for the last couple of weeks. I knew this program was coming up, and I thought to myself, how can I give some suggestions from experience? So before you go out and spend a lot of money, these are the 3 points that I would have you take away, and I wish somebody would have helped us with it a little bit. But the first thing is, why do you want a drone program? You have to know what you're going to utilize this equipment for before you just go out and spend tons of money on this program. Okay, so we got lucky, but you know, I go to a lot of training. So these other agencies, they want to do crash reconstruction, or they want to do mapping with geolocation, or they want to use it for just evidence collection. You have to figure out what you're going to utilize this program for before you go out and spend a lot of money and get the wrong platform. Okay, so like this drone here, again, this is my favorite drone. This is the Dual. Okay, you cannot map with this drone. So if you want to take the images and the footage from this drone and try and put a 3D model together, you can't do this with this drone. And believe it or not, this cheaper drone here, you can. So again, I encourage you to do research and figure out, what are you going to do with your drone before you go out and buy a drone. Okay. My second advice is, I would start by training the pilots before you give them the equipment. And I know that sounds crazy. So here I am, I'm an RC pilot, been flying remote control planes for a long time. And then somebody gave me this. And then I went out, and there's a steep learning curve in this, because there's lots of settings, there's safety, redundancy systems. You know, what happens when this drone loses connection? Does it hover? Does it return to home automatically? What happens if your controller dies because of the battery? There's lots of options. And unfortunately, we had some crashes on these. We crashed probably 3 or 4 of these because our guys weren't educated the way they should have been. Now, imagine if this was a $30,000 platform. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is my third point, is start your guys off, or your people off, on cheaper drones to reduce the curve for the cost. That's kind of where I'm at. I would never go back on our drone program. I know it's very costly, but it's a tool that we utilize almost every day. In fact, even this last Sunday, we had an assault. A female pulled out a knife on a male subject and then fled into a field. And then we had witnesses following her at a safe distance, and we launched our drone and we attempted to find her, but unfortunately we couldn't. We found everybody else on thermal camera except for the person we were looking for. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. But I think that's all I have to share, unless anybody has any questions. I guess I'll pass the microphone on, if you will.
Yes, thank you so much, Sheriff. Sergeant Bonahu, I'm sorry. Sheriff Weilisland, are you available? Did you want to share your screen and share slides? I see you came in the room. I know you're busy taking care of some business, but
I'm not as talented as Sergeant Bono with screens, etc., but I have been 100% behind this drone program starting at least 5 years ago. I think is when we started this program. We had the very first drone that Sergeant Bono talked about that was between $20,000 and $30,000 that a friend of mine donated to our office for us to be able to use, because he was very intrigued about the drones. And now we try to have one of the Mavic Pros available on each shift. So each sergeant should have one. We have a couple other drone operators, a special response team. It seems like the more we use the drones, the more we find good uses for them. And it really has been a positive thing. The community likes it. We've had, and Sergeant Bono probably hasn't gotten to this yet, We had a cattle farmer that called us one day and had, I forget what it was, 6 or 12 head of cattle that were missing, had no idea where they went. We put the drone up, and within minutes, we were able to show them on the screen, well, here they are. They're down over here grazing in this ditch. And he was able to retrieve his cattle. So lost animals, lost children, the photos we talked about, we've had police departments call us where they might have been in pursuit. Person took off on foot. They're hiding along a ditch bank. We take our drone, fly it over, and tell them exactly where the person's hiding. So we have a river that goes through our county. The Maumee River is a fairly good sized river. We've had river rescues. We can check. We'll get a report of a turned over canoe. Was it just a boat going down by itself, or are there people with it? We can fly their drone to see what's going on. So it really, anytime we can have a drone searching for, going through areas maybe wooded, etc., then having a deputy going on foot that may trip, fall, sprain an ankle, or stumble across someone they weren't expecting to be right around the corner from them. Certainly, we find a lot of deer and other animals when we're doing the drone over woods looking for someone. But and that's good too. That's practice for us, and the drone operators are getting better knowing the difference between a deer sleeping on the ground and a person lying on the ground. But sometimes on the thermal camera, they look very, very similar. So I cannot say enough about this program. It's something that's well received by the community. The deputies have buy-in in this program, having them. The longer we go, the easier they are to use, and as Sergeant Bono brought up several times, the more we do it, the more we find good uses and other things we learn about how they work and how they function. So, but Brian Bono is definitely the expert. I went through and got my FAA license. I'm a certified pilot. I thought if I expect my deputies to do this, I should go through this also. And I'm really pleased with, thanks to Michael Brown's leadership, we were able to get the FAA to change some of the rules, because before you had to get a new license every 2 years and retest every 2 years and pay $150 every 2 years. We told them that's ridiculous, because you could be a pilot of a real airplane. You take virtually the same test once, you're done for life, other than your certification. So now the FAA changed that. We just do a recertification, which we just came out this year. It's very easy to do online. Once you can find it on their very difficult to navigate website from the FAA. But anyway, not criticizing that, but well, I am. But anyway, really positive on some of those changes on what we need to do to maintain our licensure with the FAA to have that pilot's license. So I'm glad I went through it, and there's online classes on how to get that license and other places, and I think your university also has classes. So strongly suggest that you all get these drones and use them. They're very inexpensive. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much, Sheriff Mark. Appreciate you so much. Next up would be Tim Woods.
I'm the Deputy Executive Director here at the National Sheriff's Association. I'm not actually a sheriff or even a retired sheriff. And Mike Brown is our expert here on all of our drone initiatives.
Yep, and I was going to ask if I could chime in. I'd just like to say that Sheriff Vosh-Lucian is actually one of the co-chairs of the National Sheriff's Association drone working group. And Sheriff Vosh-Lucian, as well as Sheriff Smith from Colorado, there are two drone co-chairs from our UAS working group. And if anyone is interested in getting involved with the UAS working group, they should reach out to me, or maybe not so much Sheriff Vosh-Lucian or Sheriff Smith. Just reach out to me and let me know, and I'll be more than happy to get you all involved. And as you saw from the presentation earlier, there's a lot of issues about Part 107, getting certified, for your officers or deputies as pilots. And those are some of the things that we can help you with if you decide to get involved with our working group.
Thank you very much, Mike Brown. Appreciate you. Next, I'd like to bring up our next expert in the field and commercial industry called Drone Deploy, and this is with Brooks Alwart.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Yeah, just quick intro for myself. So thank you for having me on here. It's really exciting for us in industry to be talking with folks in public safety, particularly the Sheriff's Organization or Sheriff's Association, and everyone here. All presentations have been really awesome, and it's great to hear technology adopted specifically in this industry. It's really cool. For myself, my name's Brooks. I live in Boston. I've been in the drone industry for the past 5 years, which for the drone industry, as I've learned, makes me a veteran at this point. So I'm told. But I've been here long enough to know at least a few things and uses in the commercial space, not just for public safety. So I wanted to talk about drone deploy and what we're doing specifically with drones and how it can be useful, as well as just how we see drone programs grow sort of from inception to more developed programs. So we have a few slides to share to exemplify some of these points. So just really quick before I get into drone programs and how we kind of see them on the commercial side, drone deploy, some of you may be familiar with it. It's most commonly seen as a mapping software. So I think Sergeant earlier was talking about mapping. So that's typically what we associate with drone deploy. It's a software that you can download for your capture device. In this case, we're talking about drones. Other folks are starting to use like ground devices, even robot dogs. If you've seen like the Boston Dynamics Spot robot, basically anything that can capture like visual documentation of a project, a job site, a scene, all of that data can then be ingested into drone deploy. So we're also a cloud software that processes those images or videos or thermal data even into what our customers are typically find useful, and basically recreating projects or locations for our customers. So then they can go in and measure things, they can share things. A lot of people in the commercial side of things use their own softwares or have their own systems that they want to integrate with. So we try to go from inception of capture with your robots to processing data to make it useful, and then back into whatever systems that our different customers are using. So that's just, I say that just as an introduction to what is drone deploy. And I have a few examples to share more specific to some industry a little bit later as well. But I think also kind of the point of today, and I just wanted to start with a quick definition of like what is a drone program, or at least how do we see what a drone program is. So we sort of view it as like a holistic combination of all of these things that make up the actual use of drone technology. So it's not just the drones themselves, it's not just the software, it's a combination of the people you use, the processes you have in place, the safety and compliance standards that you have, so that you're following the actual government rules and not breaking any laws by creating a drone program yourself. And then making sure you're flying these things safely and you have those sort of procedures in place to train your pilots. So a lot of good things mentioned earlier here in the program. Kind of to exemplify that, we sort of view it as these are like the 6 components of what we see drone programs. So kind of just summarizing what I was just talking about, but your people, potentially the software you're using, how you're communicating that information out internally or externally, the safety and compliance rules and things you have in place, how you're managing all your operations. Did you have 1 pilot or do you have 10 pilots that you have to manage and make sure they all understand how the technology works? And then what specific hardware is right for the actual end products that you're trying to create. So that's kind of how we see it, and we try to evaluate drone programs across the industry. And this was really captured earlier, but just sort of a visual to document this. This is where we see a lot of people start. And I think it was Sergeant Brian earlier was talking about where you should initially think. And I totally agree, where it's like, you should start with the end in mind. So if anyone's read 7 Habits of Highly Effective Humans, habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. One of my favorite books. And that really is just like, we even see it in industry, is like some people just buy drones just to buy drones because they're cool and they think it's innovative. But you should really think about what's the end like use case, what's the end use of this actual technology before you go and make that purchase. So same in industry, same in government organizations, same with public safety. So from there, then you can start to figure out, okay, what's the best way to make that technology more usable? Do I need the software? Do I not? What actual hardware fits the thing that I'm trying to do? So this is just kind of an example of how we see programs grow, but it totally can go in different directions. And we've seen some people start with training, some people start with the idea, it goes all across the board. So that's the other cool thing, is that there's no, like, I would say, one perfect way to do it for every organization. So some of these things were mentioned earlier, but a few things to consider for those that are either starting or even still in the process of like growing and setting up a program. These are some of the use cases. So when I say begin with the end in mind, a lot of these were mentioned earlier, is courtroom evidence for law enforcement, accident reconstruction, sometimes logistics for different scenarios. One big one, I actually don't have a slide for this, but with drone deploy in particular, is if anyone remembers the campfire in Paradise, California, a couple of years ago, a lot of the images and maps that were created both for insurance purposes and with law enforcement to understand how much damage had been done to that community was processed through drone maps, and then processed in drone deploy and shared, and all completed by the law enforcement agency there, which was really cool. So fire departments are using it for, as we know, a lot of fires are happening in the west coast of the country at the moment. So I won't delve through each of these, but just a few things to consider for use cases. Another one is, we've talked about Part 107 license earlier, which is a great way just to get your license. That's what you need to be legal to fly. The Part 107 license itself, as many of you know who have gotten it, doesn't actually teach you how to fly a drone. It teaches you the rules that you need to know, which is obviously very important, but then you also have to go through the process of learning how to actually control the drone. What are the buttons you need to push? Like, that's a super simplistic way of putting it, but I think everyone gets the point. There's also another, it's not a license itself, but an authorization that we've at least heard from our side of public agencies getting, which is the Part 91 COA, which essentially gives a little more clearance for organizations to fly basically more flexibly. So the con of this is that it's harder to get than a 107 license, for example. The pros are that things like flying over people, or flying in extreme disaster response situations, or flying for hours at a time in scenarios where often you guys will need to do that, the Part 91 might be more useful. So it might be right, it might not be right. It's something that maybe is, we suggest to look into for your particular department or office. This was covered earlier. Totally agree with the list of drones. DJI is the company that is the most, I'd say, ubiquitous of using drones in the industry. They're the most like widely scaled, available, cost-effective drones. I think they're great pieces of hardware. So I think a lot of great things were mentioned on those earlier. A few drones that are coming into play now are Skydio, which is manufactured in the US, which is a really awesome, interesting drone that it basically uses machine vision. So you can fly like really close to power lines and trees, and it will intentionally avoid those things. It's kind of scary, but it does actually work. Parrot is another option for those that aren't using DJI, and they also have some good technology as well. There's a bunch of different sensors out there that you can use. Like was mentioned earlier, the Dual is probably the cheapest, most cost-friendly thermal sensor you can get. And then as you start to get more advanced, they start to cost more. So we have a few listed on here as well. So just wanted to touch on briefly, kind of finishing up on my part here, some use cases that we're seeing within drone deploy. And these are they're used across a broad range of industries, but in my opinion, they're applicable for a lot of the things that you guys are doing. And one of them is digitally recreating scenes or incidents or anything. This doesn't have specific public safety scenes here, but these are digital reconstructions essentially of buildings, which can be done through drone deploy or through any other mapping software. And we're seeing people, even public safety, try to document those scenes. So you can just see kind of on the screen, you can locate and mark specific things that are interesting or relevant for you. You can take different measurements. So point being, sort of a 3D reconstruction of something that happened or something that exists. Another thing that's useful that we're providing or seeing is live streaming. So you can fly the drone and live stream directly to other devices, or someone sitting in a conference room on a Zoom or whatever, you can directly stream to those people who aren't physically present on your job site. So that's another popular one. Very cool. And I think the last one we have here is sort of just a general use case, which is inspection. So you want to actually go and document something for a particular project. Might be useful in courtrooms, might be useful just for a number of different reasons. You can then share inspections from 2D or 3D reconstruction. So there's a bunch more stuff. I just wanted to bring in a couple here, maybe as conversation pieces, but happy to chat more on any of these things. But hopefully that was useful and even insightful, possibly.
Thank you very much, Brooks. I really appreciate it. It was very insightful. And we have a period of Q&A.
Michael, one of the questions that came through was, how long does it take to develop expertise in capturing drone footage and controlling drones?
In my experience, I would say one of the pro tips is, before you even start flying a drone, is to spend a few weeks practicing in simulations. We've got a few great ones at our school that are like Drone Club are allowed to go and fly, even simulations where we're flying inside of buildings and around things. So to be proficient and to understand, I think it's a pretty large question, but I would say it takes about 4 or 5 weeks to get your license for your Part 107 to be really prepared and fly, and actually take the test and pass. So that's a pretty intensive class. And so at our university, we have the Part 107. We've got about a 99.7% pass rate, which is good. So you got about 5 weeks there. During that time, you could be utilizing, simulations and practicing. And then, but I think to be proficient, you're talking about 2 to 3 months, and you would be what I would call proficient. And again, I think, again, pro tip is a lot less crashes if you begin the process and understand the controls and develop your skills. It's just like any video game. But I think with the drones, there's so many different axes. You're dealing with roll, pitch, yaw, but also you're dealing with a lot of other components at the same time. You're working on elevation, and you're trying to adapt to the environment. And you've got a lot of drones will adapt for that, but there are conditions that I think we talked about is during high winds, there's different things to consider and how you control. So again, I think it's time and experience, and it helps to get that time and experience before you actually take your drone out and start flying it. With I think with the sensors, it really looks like you have a lot more, capacity as far as where you can fly and how much easier it is to be not quite a pro, but I have sensors in my Holystone, and I can't hit anything almost. I mean, when I land, I can have a pretty hard landing, but embedded into the software, it knows elevation for the most part of where I'm at, but it also has those sensors, so it tries to control that. It's more of a controlled crash than me just coming straight down onto the ground. I've tried it a few times just to test it, so I can crash it, but not without trying.
We can have another question. Do you have any recommendations on training pilots to a particular set of standards, such as ASTM? And this question relates to established level of competency in court, reduced liability in case of injury, etc. That question is for the panelist.
This is Mark Vasilian. One of the things we do is that we require all of our drone operators to fly the drone an hour a month and to document the time that they flew and anything unusual weather conditions or any issues that happen. So that way, if someone maybe doesn't have a call out with their drone, could be months that they don't use the drone, we know that an hour every month, and we keep a record of that training. So it's kind of a forced on that end. And again, practice makes perfect, as Mr. Brooks and other people have mentioned. The more you fly, the better you are. So at least this way, we know that they got 60 minutes in minimum every month.
And I do want to ask John, if you can just respond by chat, did that answer your question? Because we do know he was asking as it pertained to a set of standards such as ASTM. Okay, and we have a follow-on question from John. He said, yes, that was helpful. Are there any national level standards for drone pilots?
This is Mike from NSA. I can chime in. So one of the things that we're doing as part of the NSA UAS working group is we're talking to some of the experts in the field, and we are looking at some standards, not so much in the form of NIST or anything like that, but there are some things that we're looking for from the FAA as far as authorization to do in the future. And we're looking at standards on the way that we actually use our drones. We're looking at standards on how we actually certify aside from the FAA Part 107 test. There's been some talk about maybe some skills-based testing and things like that. And again, just for the goal of giving us more authority and more ways in which we're able to use our drones from within the office of our sheriffs around the country.
If I could add, I strongly recommend that you check with your insurance company and see what their requirements may be. Actually, the very first year we got the drones, they didn't know how to insure us, how to cover us, because we were the first in the state to have drones. So, but they were very much on board that, hey, we're interested. We just don't know what our liabilities are. They're going to be civil rights violations or privacy violations. You're, filming people in their backyards. It was so new. But they were very happy with our requirement of the 1 hour a month log. So check with your insurance company, because they're the ones that are going to defend you if and when you get sued.
I'll just add to it. So that's one thing that I'd say is kind of potentially lacking from the FAA's testing policy right now, because it's just the theoretical and knowledge tests that they provide. So there aren't any national standards in terms of like testing the abilities of drone pilots. So that's one of the things that is essentially put on departments or organizations themselves to put together and make their own policies to test their own pilots. So there's not a lot of like great standards there, but I do agree with the keeping pilots proficient by having either a certain number of set hours that they have to fly per month to keep them competent, because there's always like updates to the drones, updates to the technology, things like that. We see some people developing their own curriculums to test pilots on, both in the classroom and in the field. I would also say that it probably depends on the different drones or technology you're actually using. Like I think Sergeant Brian was mentioning earlier, the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Duals are a little bit easier, in my opinion, to fly than probably if you take up a Matrice. And then if you're using a thermal camera, there's other things you need to know as a drone pilot for you to be effective. So even having different certifications or education plans for or testing for the different platforms that you use is probably going to be useful.
Yeah, that's actually great advice, Brooks. And I'd like to add just a little bit to that as well. Working with the FAA on the trust administration piece is given me a lot of insight, and it does appear that this is new for the FAA too, and so it's constantly changing. Where we have to just sort of keep abreast of things, and that's, I think, important to just know that retraining is critical right now, and understanding what the new laws are as they're coming out. Just recently, the FAA came out with that every drone that weighs over 0.55 pounds is going to have, whether it's recreational use or Part 107, you'll need to take this test. And I'll talk about that later, but that's the trust. And that's a requirement for everyone to fly safely. We are an FAA trust administrator at UAGC, but also I wanted to put out that different states, beyond just what the FAA requires, different states have their own law and landscape as well. So as those sort of state legislative laws go into place, I think it's important to know that beyond what the FAA requires, there's also going to be state and local, and even going down into communities, where each community has their own rules and regulations. So it's pretty interesting, the vast array of things you'll need to know about drones and how much more they're going to be utilized in our communities here in the future, especially with drone transportations and inspections and all the things we talked about, environmental issues and all those things as well.
So Michael and all the panelists, this webinar is so rich in knowledge. Another question here is to everyone, how do you manage concerns of the public with privacy when integrating a drone program?
I could start it off. I'm not the expert in the public safety as it, as I haven't been in any police department. In the military, we do have a lot of ideas. I mean, one is in your communities or in your areas, include your community in the idea of drone programs and drone safety and get the community's buy-in early. As far as how you would control that safety, there's a lot of software technology that can be embedded into different cameras, artificial intelligence, just like in Google Maps, where it automatically knows facial recognition and can take out the the faces and images of people. So I think that there's a lot of intuitive software that can be utilized, but I think it's important to manage the concerns is getting public buy-in. That's my take on that. And anyone else have anything to add on that, I'd appreciate it.
I would agree. Having positive when we use the drone, especially early on, we would do press releases, and the media jumped on it because they thought it was nice technology. When people saw how we were using it, again, the law is very new because people can fly drones over people's backyards and see what's going on. And the whole question comes down to who's enforcing that, which we've had those discussions with the FAA. At what point is it going to be local law enforcement to enforce different rules and regulations with the drones versus the FAA, which they had like one investigator for multi-states. So a lot of it's very new, but again, it's exactly as you mentioned, it's getting the positive press early on of the good things you're doing with the drone, that you're not trying to look through people's windows. Unless, of course, it's a special response team call out, then maybe you are. But again, it comes down to positive PR and having that community relations.
And this is Marty McAuliffe. I'm just jumping in. I'm a teacher with the University of Arizona Global Campus in the criminal justice field. And there is a Supreme Court case called Ciarola that says that police officers that used a plane to look into the backyard of somebody they suspected of growing marijuana was not a privacy invasion. So basically, it kind of comes down to a plain view doctrine analysis. If you're not entitled to privacy for the airspace above your house, kind of like you don't own the airspace above your house. That's not in the case, but I think the analogy is apt. So that's not the best political way to talk to a group and say, you don't have any privacy rights, but just know from a legal standpoint, from the air, you can look down and see what's going on around people's areas.
I think that is actually a great point, Marty, because as we're going through the process and getting guidance and getting the new federal regulations, there was a big program that initially came out in 5 different states. And actually, Dr. Ivey just introduced me to this initial legislative document about the federal government beginning 5 different programs. And I knew our city here in Chula Vista had an amazing drone program. And I had a couple of my friends, they work with the dogs, and they work, in the whole industry. So I had about 4 or 5 police officers I was chatting with the other day in regards to their drone programs. And it was actually pretty amazing that each one of these officers actually had a drone in each of their vehicles and each of their cruisers. So I was surprised and impressed that the development of their program has led to the need for every officer to have a drone ready, more of like a tool where if they need to breach into somebody's area or if they have to see what's happening. I think it's important to see where this can scale and the safety and the positive the positive outlooks that can come from having drones available and just to save life in emergency situations. To have that is a great tool. Okay, we're actually going to start off with one of my colleagues from the University of Arizona Global Campus, Marty. And Marty, I'm gonna let you take the wheel and introduce yourself, sir.
Great, and I'll be brief because I know we're getting close on time. My name is Marty McAuliffe. I am a lawyer by training, but an educator by choice. I was a prosecutor and I also did private criminal defense. Please hold your booze to a minimum for about a decade before I transferred over into education. In my law experience, I had close to 100 jury trials as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and I'm the attorney of record for 7 published criminal cases in the state of Arizona, licensed as well in the states of Arizona and Nevada is kind of my background on how I got here. My transition into education law helped me be part of launching 3 different criminal justice programs, the creation of them and teaching within them as well. One for a national university, another one for a smaller college in Atlanta, and then with this institution now. I've been here since 2005. And our degree programs are pretty unique in the focus that we have on our faculty. Our faculty are all practitioners, which anybody here knows, no matter how many training classes you go to, you want to know if the book actually, presents what really happens in the real world, quote unquote. So everybody that teaches for us has practical experience in the field, which I think is really an added value for what we do. We have an undergraduate program in criminal justice. It's a Bachelor of Arts, and we have a master's in criminal justice program as well. And both of those programs are focused on a very effective adult education model. The undergraduate classes run 5 weeks. The graduate classes run 6. Students take 1 class at a time. And there's a lot of adult education research that says adults learn the best when they're focused on just one thing at a time, rather than the traditional college student in the ages of 18 to 23 or so that can absorb a lot of different things at once. Adults learn better by intense learning in one subject. 5 weeks undergrad, you learn one thing, let's say criminal law will be one, and then you'll move on to forensics after that. Same thing with the master's program, but those programs last 6 weeks, a little more intense, obviously, because of the level of education required and the academic rigor. We are a WASC accredited university, which puts us on par with all of the private and state California universities and colleges as far as what the accreditation for our university is. And basically, Gina is going to be talking about the advantages that people in law enforcement have in coming to our programs. And if anybody has any questions at all, or anybody that wants any information about coming over to the University of Arizona Global Campus and putting all those credits you have together from trainings and other schools together and want to get a degree from the University of Arizona Global Campus, I'd be more than happy to talk to you and help you through that process. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Marty. I appreciate that. All right. So I've introduced myself earlier. My name is Michael Hayden, and I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the initiatives we have at the university and some of the support we're doing for the community. One is we, as I stated before, we are a FAA trust administrator. And so what is this trust? So this is actually the FAA reached out to industry and to colleges and schools to provide the opportunity for us to support and provide the test for the recreational UAS safety test. And so the information and materials provided by the FAA, we incorporate that into a platform, and I'd like to actually show you that platform as well. But just again, anyone that flies a drone over 0.55 pounds must have this FAA trust certificate. And so if you can consider even just understanding what the policy is for everyone flying a drone and who is responsible for policing that arena, whether it's the FAA or whether it's the sheriffs or local law enforcement. So I think that again, I think that's determined basically by your SOPs and how you want to begin your drone programs, and whether or not the safety of flying is determined basically by again your local laws and local rules. One of the things I want to show you, let me change this image real quick. I'm going to share my screen 1 here. So this is our landing page for our school, and this is really a portal to go into this FAA certification test. So again, I recommend everybody to go in. It's about a 15-minute test, and you almost can't fail it. But what it'll allow you to do is actually see all the rules, regulations. It talks about the basic principles of flying drones and the basic rules and regulations in getting your Part 107. It's not quite as detailed, but it's definitely a lot of safety issues and the requirements that anyone flying a drone needs to follow and adhere to. So this will be mandatory for every drone flyer here very shortly. They just came out with the test and they're recommending it, but the FAA plans on requiring everyone to do it. This is actually additional resources here. We have the FAA Drone Zone, where you can go, and this was where you register your drone. I just wanted to briefly touch up base on that. The Low Altitude Authorization Notification Capability, LANCE. If you're not familiar with that, that's actually where you can go get approvals to fly. And then also before you fly, this is a lot of information needed about airspace authorizations. I'm sorry. And then information how to become a recreational flyer. This is actually what the FAA test looks like inside of our platform. So you can see there's welcome, there's all the different topics. You have understanding requirements, airspace, restrictions, where you can fly. So these are all the titles of these different, I would call them either chapters or modules. And when you complete this test, you get to input your name here. And so everyone, and I'm actually giving, Sergeant Brian, I'm giving you a honorable certificate right now. You're going to have to actually take the test to get your own. But this is what the FAA Trust Certificate looks like. So anyone flying a drone, it's mandatory for them to actually have this completion certificate from the FAA. So if you're aware of someone flying drones that are maybe not being safe, this is one of the requirements that you can ask them for. And if you take the FAA trust, you'll also know what they're allowed to do and what not to do. So that's that section. I did want to show everyone something else on here. This NCSL. This is a really good website. This has a lot of the different legislation. It has some great resources for each different state. So this details what different states are reporting and what they need to do. I wanted to show you this one, North Carolina. This is actually, this is a little bit older PowerPoint, but it does talk about what the North Carolina will be utilizing and how they set up their programs. So there's a lot of great information within this website, and I'll share all of these with you. Also, let me move on to my next slide here. I want to introduce you guys to a couple more topics. So at University of Arizona Global Campus, we have our AVI 200 course. And this is an elective. It's open to non-degree seeking students. So that means that anyone can come. You don't have to be looking to finalize your degree in technology or in business or anything marketing. You can just take this class. And I know that there's a big discount for all of the Sheriff's Association. So I'm going to defer that to Gina, but the every course that we have and every instructor is a pilot, and you have like additional recess to direct access to chat with them, make connections with them, even during the class and after the class. You're able to talk to very experienced longtime pilots. And there's a lot of different advantages to going through our courses. As I said before, we have a great success rate. This prepares you to fly and get your Part 107 license, and we have a huge success rate in that. We also have some other drone programs. We have some emphasis, and I'm going to let Dr. Lamone speak to that. But I did also want to introduce you to our Drone Aviation and Aerospace Club. So some of the drone activities we have flight days, virtual meetups. The next one we're having, as you can see, it's September 4th, where we have a live flight day. And this is in Coronado here in San Diego. But we have meetings every month, and some of the things that we do at our meetings, first off, let me say we practice safe flying, social distancing, and have a lot of fun and learn. but we do mini classes. We do maintenance sessions. We take videos. We perform data collection, extraction, process. Some of our advanced students at the university will do, the data analytics. We can do different variations and put them into different visualization tools. So we do a little bit more advanced stuff with the advanced classes. We practice team flying. Always talk about safety, and there's a lot more that we do. So, and I want to extend the opportunity for everyone here to join the club and enjoy the benefits. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and we just share knowledge and have a good time. So that's open for everyone. Dr. Limon, I'm going to pass this over to you, sir.
All right, thank you, Michael. Yeah, my name is Dr. Limon. I'm the lead faculty for Forbes School of Business and Technology, and I lead the Cyber and Data Security Technology Division. And I'm also part of the emphasis that we put together for UAGC. We have several. We have one in marketing, cybersecurity, entrepreneurship, homeland security, and emergency management, and in criminal justice as well. So, Mike, just to mention one more thing, guys, the trust is free. If you come and take it, it is a free site, a free certification. You don't have to pay for it, I believe. And we do offer the FAA Part 107. So that's very important. And just to emphasize one more time that, our instructors are pilots. And so you're going to get, if you need tutoring or anything like that, you're going to get that through our courses and through the pilots who will, be your tutors. Next slide, Michael, please. Yeah, so again, we do have the cybersecurity infrastructure emphasis. Like I mentioned, we had other ones, but I want to talk about the cybersecurity just because when you're dealing with any type of forensics, like especially digital forensics, you have to learn all about the different types of malware out there, the different types of viruses, and just how a whole crime scene is put together. We do have a risk management course that actually walks you through that. And like Michael said, that these are our emphasis that we offer. But as for the AVI 200, which is included in these emphasis, you do not have to sign up for the emphasis unless you're a student and want to take electives. But the AVI 200 is a non-degree seeking. So anyone in the National Sheriff's Association who wanted to get a Part 107 can come to UAGC and take that one course and get certified for the FFA exam. So next slide, Michael. And the other emphasis. Actually, go ahead and go one more slide down. I think we have one more on the. Yeah. So I believe this is our other one. The other main emphasis that might interest you guys is the homeland security and emergency management emphasis. And again, this one it pairs more with your line of work. And so we just wanted to throw that out there that we do offer emphasis, and all of our emphasis do include the AVI 200 commercial drone pilot course. Again, thank you everyone for showing up today, and we really appreciate what you do for the communities. And I'm going to pass this on back to you, Michael. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Limon, for introducing those emphases. The next I'd like to bring Gina back and talk about the education partner benefits. Gina?
Thank you. As Sergeant Bono mentioned in his advice for starting a program, he said, train your pilots first. And you can do that by sending them through UAGC's AVI 200 course at a discounted rate. And that discounted rate is 35%. I represent UAGC for Zovio, an education tech company, and it's my job and my pleasure to bring UAGC together with partners such as the National Sheriff's Association. I work alongside Amari to communicate this discount to sheriff's departments across the country. So if you're interested in more information than we're able to get into today, please connect with Amari or myself. Go to the landing page that you see here, scan the QR code, and we will be able to do a presentation, a webinar presentation, a roll call presentation, a lunch and learn, or a quick recorded message that you can share this information out to those individuals that you work with. And you'll see here in 1 second that this benefit is also for family members. So if there's anybody within your organization that is looking to go back to school, we can help them with that too. Just invite us. So As I mentioned, we offer a discount. Let's dig into that. It's a 35% discount on tuition at UAGC. This benefit, again, is for members who wish to complete or start a bachelor's degree program. You can also use this discount to pursue a master's degree. It can also be used for any of our non-degree seeking courses. So what is that? That's the drone pilot course that Dr. Limon spoke of earlier. It's a non-degree seeking course in which association members can receive a 35% discount off of. We have upcoming start dates of September 14th and September 28th. Again, that's 2 dates that are coming up, the 14th of September and the 28th of September, where that AVI course begins. So take advantage of Sergeant Bono's advice and send somebody through that course. As you'll see here also, the family benefit, or this benefit can also be extended to family members, which is pretty cool. And you'll see here we have a plethora of over 50 career relevant degree programs. So not just the ones Marty spoke of through the Forbes School of Business and Technology, but we also have several in the College of Arts and Sciences, such as HR Liberal Arts, Master of Arts, Early Childhood Education. So if you have anybody within your organization or family would like to go back to school, we've got something for them. One of the fees that we waive for association members is our prior learning assessment. You also see it as a PLA. And I wanted to spend just a quick second on this. This is for anyone seeking a bachelor's degree. We work to ensure their experience is translated to appropriate college credit. If the individual served in the United States Armed Forces, law enforcement, learned a second language, or completed professional training, their past experiences are welcome at UAGC. Even if it's been several years since they last attended college, or maybe a couple decades like myself, the credits don't go bad and don't let them go unused. Students can transfer up to 90 approved credits towards their bachelor's degree, which is equal to about 75% of a bachelor's degree program, quite significant. As I mentioned, prior learning can be assessed by providing documentation. I mentioned that law enforcement, we've already articulated or translated several courses on the law enforcement side into college-bearing course credits at UAGC. This is an example of a law enforcement guide that we put together for the state of Texas. We have one for almost every single state. This is something that Amari and I can go into a little more detail. If you invite us on site to talk about, we can share what these courses are that we've already articulated for your deputies. Take a quick minute. Marty talked a lot about why our programs at UAGC are set up the way they are, courses and degrees that are designed for the working adult with tools and technologies, really to set them up for success. As he mentioned, we're 100% online. You complete one course at a time at UAGC, and those courses are either 5 or 6 weeks in length. We have tech support available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Coursework is set up for the working professional to complete each week's assignment on their schedule. For example, if they are on the night shift, they complete their work during the day shift, they complete it at night, maybe they complete it after they put their kids to bed, what have you. But we have the student support by way of mentors, tutors, financial aid, writing centers, and the like, much of it available 24/7, which is conducive to their schedule to set some up for success. So whether you mentor sheriffs who may wish to complete a degree, or perhaps a civilian who wants to be more involved in tech support of your department, or even a family member who wants to complete a degree, you can feel good sharing UAGC's information for an investment in their future through education. We strive to provide tools to set all of our students up for success. As you've met some of our professors already today, you know firsthand, you heard firsthand their knowledge and their passion for their student success, definitely the knowledge and passion for the programs that they teach. And there's just too much to cover now. So if you'd like more information, as I mentioned, please reach out to us. Our dedicated team is versed in the drone program we spoke of today, also versed in the National Sheriff's Association member benefit that we have. Scan that QR code. Answer a couple questions. Amari will get you to where you need to be. So as I bring my passion for education and my respect for those of you who serve and protect, it's been a fantastic day. And thank you, Dr. Ivy and Mike Brown.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gina. And then I'd like to bring back Karen and Michael Brown for the wrap up here, please.
Thank you, Michael. Ms. Gina, if you can bring your mic back on, your camera as well, and Michael Brown also. And if we all three can get pinned. Oh my goodness, this has been a fantastic, knowledge-rich webinar. Wow. I would like if attendees could actually put your comments right in chat. Did you find this helpful? Was this networking a good direction to share and share all the knowledge? Go ahead and just flood chat with your feedback so we know. Mike Brown, any words you'd like to say in closing?
Just thanks to all of the panelists and participants. Thanks to you, Dr. Ivy, and your team. And I thought it was so good. I want to know how I can get a copy of the recording so I can watch it again.
Very good. Yes, we will actually edit the video and have that video ready. We will provide that video link back to you, Mike Brown, so you can even share it with all within the National Sheriff's Association who are not able to be here today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, speaking of those who are not able to be here today, when you have a good thing, you want to do it again. And so we know that due to very busy schedules, some cannot attend today. Yes, we will have a video where others will be able to watch, but we are going to have another session on challenges in developing the drone program. I placed the registration information in the chat. Be sure to share that out with anyone who wants to attend. Ms. Gina, if you can turn your camera back on, want to offer any closing words that you may have as well.
Yes, please. I didn't get to go through everything about UAGC and how we're here to work with you and help your folks, but I have a loved one that is in law enforcement. So I sincerely thank you for all your service. And anytime I can bring my passion of education and my love for those of you that serve and protect together, it's a fantastic day. So thanks to Michael Brown and Dr. Ivy and everybody today that we could do that, and allow Amari and I to please talk to you and help you bring education to your folks. We have that family benefit, so they don't have to be a person within your department that's looking to attend a university. It could be somebody that's home, maybe taking a break from school because of this pandemic or what have you. We're here to help you and get you that 35% discount.
And that 35% discount is awesome. It's very, yes. And so a fantastic event is nothing if we cannot say our thank you. So very quickly, I would like to say thank you to Michael Brown and Tim Woods of the National Sheriff's Association. Thank you to Sheriff Wastalinshan and Sergeant Bonoff from the Wood County Sheriff Office. Thank you to Albert Brooks of Drone Deploy. And thank you to the UAGC team and to Zobio, Miss Gina. Our UAGC team, Ford School of Business and Technology, you guys are awesome, and we really, really appreciate it. We were able to bring together live streaming at the last minute, so I noticed that some were able to join live streaming as well. And you guys are awesome. What more can I say? And just one last word, the University of Arizona Global Campus, as I mentioned at the beginning, we pride ourselves in being an innovative university. We are in front of new technology, new directions, training individuals for their next level, whatever career path they may choose. And so thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming webinar sessions. You take care, have a great day, and have a wonderful, wonderful learning journey. Bye-bye.